Agbin says that Transport Minister Kweku Ofori-Isiama will be referred to the Privileges Committee if he fails to appear before the House to answer questions from members of Parliament. The minister was expected in Parliament on Tuesday to answer 9 questions but failed to show up in the rare show of bipartisanship. Leadership of both the minority and majority took on ministers who do not show up in the House. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante, reports.
In the last few weeks, the minority in Parliament have been insistent on having ministers of state appear in person to answer questions from MPs. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta bore the brunt of Parliament last week when he failed to appear to answer questions. According to Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak, the House must crack the whip on ministers who refuse to appear before the House to answer questions.
Ministers are gradually turning this House, the Speaker, for lack of a better word, like a joke. Because, Mr. Speaker, they wait until the morning of asking the questions. Then now they will run to you that I cannot come because there's one agent thing or the other. Mr. Speaker, for the Minister for Transport in particular, yes, he used to be one of those who happily come to the House and answer questions. But, Mr. Speaker, of late, time and time again, Mr. Speaker, I can recollect that this will be about the 3rd time I alone is raising concern about his inability to appear before the House. Mr. Speaker, will be grateful that you help this House hold these ministers accountable, because this is one of the two that is used in holding them accountable. So for the ministers to be picking and choosing when they want to come, Speaker, I believe as a House we need to resolve, because unless the person is sick, you have deputy ministers, you don't even have the courtesy of sending even a deputy minister.
His comments came on the back of Transport Minister's failure to appear before the House to answer 9 questions in the name of some MPs. In a rare show of bipartisan support, Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre backed the arguments of his colleagues in the minority and called for the naming and shaming of such ministers.
You cannot bring your correspondence or excuse duty on the same day that you are supposed to appear before this House. That is totally unacceptable. And it's something we shouldn't romance at all. And probably this will be the last. We will not entertain this kind of attitude and bring in a notice at the very day you are supposed to take your question. That will not be accepted. And I'm not too happy about it. So I'm in total agreement with the worries we expressed, especially relative to the Transport Minister. And like you rightly said, he's one of the ministers who have been very diligent. But these days, his attitude leaves a lot to be desired. So, Speaker, I'm only going to plead that we will try and reprogram him for him to appear.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin warned ministers of state that he will not tolerate their continuous absence in the House.
Ministers don't decide when they will appear to the House to answer the questions. That decision is not for ministers. That decision is for the House and the Speaker. This constitutes contempt of the House. I am tempted to refer his conduct to the Privileges Committee. But because of the intervention of leadership, I will resist that temptation. But the next conduct tantamount to this behavior will be referred to the Privileges Committee.
Now, the Attorney General has defended government's resourcing of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, making a comparison with his own ministry. He said the OSP is far more resourced to work. Now, there have been concerns government has failed to adequately resource anti-graft agencies following the revelation that it was yet to even constitute a board for the OSP. But speaking at the swearing-in of the board of the OSP, Godfrey Dame dismissed claims that government has not shown enough commitment to fighting graft.
Necessary organ for the smooth operations for the Office of the Special Prosecutor, it was for months functioning without a board. It also emerged it has received far less than it requested to operate. JoyNews checks revealed the OSP requested 1 billion Ghana cedis. However, only 170 million Ghana cedis was approved, and yet only 10 million out of the approved figure has been released. All of these culminated in a big national conversation about the government's commitment to fighting corruption. But now, the Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame said government has demonstrated enough commitment.
We all owe a duty to contribute to the success of this institution. At this stage, may I say that some malicious, ill-founded and often ill-researched comments in the media about the office, the resources at its disposal, hardly serve the public interest. I was intrigued when one media house reported recently that only an amount of 10 million Ghana cedis has been released so far this year for the Office of the Special Prosecutor. This the media house reported without regard to a general situation affecting budgetary allocations and releases for institutions investigating and prosecuting crime and the promotion of good governance in the country generally. The record will show, and the Chief Director is here, that apart from the amount released for compensation of employees, only a total amount of less than a quarter of what was reported as having been received by the OSP has been released for operations of the entire Office of Attorney General and Minister of Justice and the 7 agencies under the ministry, including all the offices it runs in all the 16 regions of Ghana. There is an unfortunate circumstance the ministry contends with, but we do not make a public spectacle of it because we understand the times in which we are.
With no board and peripheral workers, the Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabin said together with his deputy, it was difficult to work.
Either to, it has just been I and my deputy who have been knocking our heads over. It's been very difficult, but we have held the fort till now, and we warmly welcome you to the fold. I see a few faces who were in the first board, at least from my records, and I would extend a warm welcome back to the board. Mr. Attorney General, we assure you of our quest to put in our full professional best so that this office would become the foremost anti-corruption agency in Africa. You can count on that.
The Minister for Justice hopes the newly sworn-in 9-member board of the OSP will discharge their duty without fail.
That I will at all times well and truly serve the Republic of Ghana as a board member of the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
For JoyNews, Michael Ashali.
Now, health authorities in the Bono East region have declared a no vaccination, no entry for senior high school pupils in the region as part of measures to curb the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in the area. The region currently has 62 active cases, with 8 of the cases recorded in various senior high schools. Regional Minister Kwesi Edujan, at the launch of the 4th National Vaccination Days campaign, urged heads of senior high schools to ensure that the directive is strictly adhered to across the region to prevent a mass spread of the pandemic. Anasabit has more in the following report.
COVID-19 in the Bono East region has taken a new twist as the region saw its active cases rising from 2 to 61 in a space of 10 days, with 8 of these cases involving school-aged children in the various senior high schools. Addressing the heads of senior high schools, municipal and district directors of health services, municipal and district directors of education and students of the Busunya Senior High School, Bono East Regional Minister Kwesi Edujan expressed worry at the situation.
In the Bono East region, we had not recorded any COVID case since April 2022 until the 8th of June, when we recorded a couple of cases. However, we have recorded 61 cases, 61 from 2 within a week or so, with 52 active cases in 7 districts.
The minister, who was speaking at the regional launch of the 4th National COVID-19 Vaccination Days campaign, noted that the region is taking drastic efforts capable of overturning a possible mass outbreak of the pandemic in the various senior high schools, and this includes a no vaccination, no entry into the schools.
I've come here today to encourage the heads of Ghana Education Services in the districts and the heads of senior high schools to arrange for the vaccinating teams to vaccinate the students, to protect them, and to avert large COVID-19 outbreak cases in our schools. Heads of senior high schools should ensure that all students have their COVID-19 vaccination cards to show proof of vaccination. No vaccination card, no entrance to the school campus.
Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Admakubuatin, disclosed that vaccination posts are being placed at the various senior high schools to take care of the situation.
We have started getting isolated outbreaks in some of the schools. And then we saw that, look, once it started, why don't we prevent them? And the best bet for us to make sure that the students are vaccinated. We have had a number of disruptions, especially when the students apart from the fear, the panic, the disruption, and all the trauma psychologically. Why don't we make sure that as many of them are vaccinated, and so that even if we are going to have challenge, the magnitude will not be as we have experienced.
However, noted that with a case fatality of 2.5, a figure above the national average of less than 1, there is a need for members of the region to take the vaccination exercise seriously.
If you look at our case fatality, 75 deaths, the case fatality is more than what? 2.2 over 2. If you look at the national figure of case fatality, it's less than 1. If you look at Greater Accra, Ashanti, where we have number of cases, the case fatality is not even up to 0.6. So for we small and upcoming region, leading in terms of position 7 and in terms of case fatality high, we have to take this exercise very seriously.
On her part, Regional Director of Education Mrs. Ifwa Amwa admonished all to adhere strictly to the laid down COVID-19 protocols in order to stay safe from the pandemic.
In order to do away with its impact on education and the nation as a whole, we must continue to be vaccinated and adhere to the enhanced hygiene and safety protocols in our schools and communities so that everyone would be protected. Unless everyone is protected, no one is protected.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Busonya, Indian Kranza North District.
Now, a professor of environmental sustainability science at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Frederick Atuama, is warning the environment will deal ruthlessly with Ghanaians if human activities that destroy it are overlooked. According to him, the floods in Cape Coast, Accra and other parts of the country are reactions of the environment to illegal artisanal mining undertaken over of forest vegetation cover for people's selfish gains. Richard Kwejinyako has more from Professor Amer's inaugural lecture.
The past couple of days has seen flood waters inundate the people of Cape Coast, Chufuheman, the commended Ne Iguafuabre municipality. The death of one person, broken bridges, roads caving in, houses razed to ground zero, incalculable number of displaced residents, as well as inestimable number of property destroyed due to the devastation caused by the floods. In Accra and some parts of the western region, the flood waters have wreaked enormous havoc with houses and vehicles submerged. Speaking at his inaugural lecture at UCC, Professor Atuama described the relationship with the environment that has broken down as worrying and want urgent steps taken to deal with the situation.
It is not surprising that vegetation cover has given way to ground cover moving away, canopy cover is taken away, ground cover is taken away, you have the bare soil, which is exposed, and for which reason you find the weather elements acting on them, and then destroying water bodies is leading to siltation, and then, of course, because it is silted, the water holding capacity is compromised, and for which reason you realize that even the small amount of rainfall that we have, episodic rainfall, is causing floods. If we continue to treat the environment any way we like, because the environment is not selective. If, for instance, somebody with the financial wherewithal has built even in a waterway, when the impacts emanate, it is not going to select anybody for attention. Everybody would have to suffer, and we know that. In Cape Coast, in Accra, we see a lot of floods, and these are something that we need to also consider. So our human well-being is something which is predicated on the state of the environment. The state of mankind is predicated on the state of the environment. And this is where the kinship is. And I'm saying that in the last few years, we have broken this kinship because we are no longer living harmoniously with the environment the way we ought to. And the environment is teaching us little lessons. In fact, the lessons that is about to teach us has not started. This is the precursor or the prelude to what the environment can do if we continue to treat it in this particular manner.
He believes the issue requires an urgent multi-stakeholder approach to deal with it to reduce the impact of the floods.
Illegal artisanal small-scale mining is cross-scalar. When I say cross-scalar, it means that it has manifestations from the local to the global. So you have sub-national jurisdictions, that is local, municipal, regional, metropolitan areas all affected. And then beyond the nation, you are also thinking about the regional and then the global scale. There are a number of global forces that are driving the processes that we see manifest at the local level. So in that sense, it is multi-scalar, you see, and that is also something that makes it very difficult to really address. It is connected to different domains. So you have water linked to forest, forest linked to soils, soils linked to atmosphere, atmosphere linked to the anthroposphere. So all of these domains are connected.
NADMO and other government agencies have already started supplying relief items to the affected people, while the people that have been affected are counting their losses after the recession of the flood waters. Meanwhile, some of the broken bridges are yet to be fixed to reunite the communities. Reporting for JoyNews, Richard Kwejunyako, Cape Coast.
Now, as part of efforts to promote science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM education, Nesta Challenges, organizers of the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Challenge Prize, GSTEP, has launched a report that explores the practical teaching of STEM education at Ghana's junior high school level. The report, dubbed Practical STEM Education in Ghana, Barriers and Opportunities, has been presented to the Ministry of Education. Mausi Numon reports.
The research, which was conducted as part of the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Challenge Prize, focuses on some of the challenges hindering STEM education in the country and provided some recommendations. The research reveals, even though there is significant progress in Ghana's education system, the adoption of practical science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that is STEM education, remains low. Constance Ajiman is the Director of International Development for Nesta Challenges. She spoke to JoyNews on the findings.
So some of the challenges that teachers face in particular is the time that they have to actually do practical education, or the tools and materials and the resources. So providing them with lesson plans, with tools and materials and ways that they can actually do practical education with the students was something that they were really keen to develop. We also worked with teachers to show them some practical education methods that they could do to help those young people come up with ideas to solve community issues. There's often a lot of students in a classroom, so finding the time to have that resources and materials that the teachers and the schools need to provide can sometimes be challenging with the resources that the schools have. And so for students, it was really about trying to break through some of that just listening to the teacher and being able to get their hands on to practice something.
Constance Ajiman hinted her outfit is working on some measures to help bridge the gap.
Sure that teachers within each of their lesson plans are thinking of a practical way to show the lesson. we want to ensure that they have some of the tools and resources that enables them to do that. And that doesn't have to be high-tech, expensive things. It can be simple materials that are found around. Cardboard, straw, paper, the plastic bottles, anything that they can use to demonstrate to the children ways at which they can do maths, they can do technology. We want the teachers to be able to undertake their own development and training, because a number of those teachers said that personal development and ways of being able to do practical education was very important to them. For the young people, we want to build agency in them so that they understand they are able to use those practical skills to solve community issues.
The sector minister, Dr. Yao Osei-Idichum, pledged government's commitment to considering the research findings and recommendations, describing the report as timely.
So we are moving to a level where we are building on your best practices, and that is why this report is so timely. So we are very grateful and incorporate it into the regular school curriculum.
Mausi Numon's reports for JoyNews.
That's all for the news. The show continues with Benjamin and Benis.